people of the World Wide Web. So this is Cypher Sigma, and this is another video about talking toys. So talking toys, yes, this is a little series that I've come up with where I just talk about certain aspects of collecting and what's involved and stuff like this. So this is episode 3. So episode 1 was what I collect. No, it was why I collect, what I collect, and now this is how I collect. So when I go with how, basically this is just a transition of how collecting has happened over the years. So obviously I am in my 40s now. Obviously I got toys when I was a kid, like all of us did. Obviously this was the 80s, there was not much out there. It was always presents that I can remember. My parents have always regaled me with stories of going to stores and picking up one or two of the toys I have or still have in my collection. But I don't really remember that because it was so long ago. Obviously, as I say, I'm in my 40s now. So as time went on and obviously my mum and dad split up and my new dad came along, he would very much always take us to Woolworths. So this was always the place that I kind of linked to my childhood at going toys. He always used to take us there, whether he was trying to win my mum over, I don't know. And yeah, we'd always get some sweets and some toys. And one of the things I remember is getting Countdown. So that's a big Transformer kind of rocket. I had a rocket on it, a kind of mobile rocket launch tower. Yeah, lost half the bits for it and ended up selling it ages ago. And not what, you know, I do have fond memories of it, but it's not something I would enjoy collecting. So yeah, apologies for the bad editing there, but yes. So obviously the first kind of memories that brings mine is obviously Woolworths, and obviously everyone knows growing up, but Woolworths was a place to be. Obviously you could always get sweets and stuff, as well as toys, which is what I did. So thankfully, obviously I have those good memories growing up to be a teenager. After, you know, the teens, I started growing out of toys. You know, that was just by the by. Obviously I did have a comic book shop. Obviously we did have Toys R Us and stuff like that. Those were kind of the avenues that I was aware of where you could get toys. You know, Toys R Us, losing the name there. And that's where we went for quite a long period of me growing up, and obviously maybe not into toys. So fast forward probably like 10-15 years after I kind of got into toys and started to get back into it. The clue, obviously the internet is, what was it, I think 2006 or something. I'm not 100% sure on that. So almost 20 years ago. So it was probably in its kind of a bigger influence. Probably, no, it would have been 90s, wouldn't it? Anyway, so the internet of what we know, and probably eBay is where kind of I jumped back on board. Obviously I had the shops, so you did still have Toys R Us, you had probably some supermarkets still had some amount of toys, but you know, almost 10 years ago when kind of I started to get back into it, eBay was it for me. I wasn't part of any groups, just because my circle, and still my main circle of friends, it's not including the guys from YouTube and that, is none of them are really into toys or a lot of stuff. Movies, yes. Toys, not so much. So for me, eBay was the choice. You know, looking up stuff, and you could get kind of anything and everything, and you could get from China, and it was all cheap, and you didn't have to pay import charges and everything else. So this is where I started to get it. I started to get a lot of Takara Tomy Transformers, whether they're knockoff or not, and it was like £15. So you imagine you've got a few £100 spare, and you'd be like 2 Transformers here and 2 you know, oh, they've done this one and bought this one, and it carried on that way for probably about, say, 3 years. eBay was always my go-to, and I say it's only after 3 or 4 years. So this is where I'm mainly in my flats, and obviously of starting to bulk stuff out, I started to go for eBay. Now eBay, this was, to me, felt like the hype of eBay had come to a peak, because you started to go from really reliable and getting that stuff to a lot of people having a lot of bad things, you know, a lot of people trying to scam people, especially from China, which is where a lot of my stuff was coming from. People were getting beads and stuff like this. I've only had 2 instances on using eBay for like toy collecting of where I've had a bad experience. And say the first one was something like some beads or something turned up when I'd ordered something. Have no idea. I managed to get my money back. It was very simple. It wasn't as hard as a lot of people were making out. And I say I wasn't as I started to get to this point is where I think I was more active on Facebook and starting to go into these Facebook groups. just kind of show off what I had and see what other people had. And obviously this is where more third parties and stuff started to come in and produce, and just because I was going outside of Transformers or wanted to expand outside of Transformers and weren't sure where to go. So that is what we're having. Obviously we had then the one experience where something didn't turn up, and the other one is I bought something, it did turn up, it must have been a knockoff because the hands and everything is so loose and it's a Starscream. It is the worst kind of transform ever. Literally, you can't transform it without a wing, an arm, a leg falling off. It is just the worst piece of rubbish you could have probably picked up. I think I only paid like £20 or something, so I'm not really fussed because, you know, nowadays a Starscream, if you get it like from Smiths or something, it's probably like 60 quid, and online it's probably like looking at hundreds or stuff like this. But this is where it is. It was this kind of whole, not community, but it's kind of this feeling of there is dodgy ones out there, and me trying to expand is when I slowly started to move away, because there was like this stigmatism around eBay and not using it something. So I went over to Facebook, and so this is where then you had Marketplace was quite good and stuff, and I started to go back to car boots and stuff like this. So you know, so this is where my habits then change kind of again, and I'm looking there, and obviously car boots, you know, I found the odd bit but not too much. Facebook was a lot easier. I found Facebook Marketplace at that time, so it probably 5-6 years ago, was really, really good, really precise, and you know, you would search an area and you would get exact searches for there, whereas now it seems to give me searches for USA, even though I'm in the UK, and it's all properly screwed up. But so this is where I went, and this is kind of my avenue of when toys started to peak up, and obviously coming into buying my house from a flat, having lots more space, and my wife being very loving and caring of my hobby, even though she doesn't always necessarily agree with it. As long as I'm not getting us into debt, you know, and it makes me happy, she's happy. There we are. So yeah, a bit of advice for you: if you've got a partner like that, then you're good like me. So yeah, so this is where I was, and obviously using these Facebook groups is where I started to notice more people and more different groups, and you go on Transformers and then Marvel Legends and stuff. And first it was these main groups. It was Transformers first of all, finding out, then it was Marvel Legends because I was into Marvel Legends. Then when I got bored of Marvel Legends, and now I'm kind of in the main chats. I am in some of these like Marvel Legends as sites too, but and Transformer groups. But the main thing is I like the groups where they have anything and everything, and anything can come up, and I like those because then you see loads of weird stuff and it reminds you, oh, that's great. Obviously used Facebook a lot and stuff like this, and I found this to be very effective. Obviously between this period, then obviously Toys R Us went down. You had Amazon, so Amazon are really good for newer stuff, and you can get good deals. It's just being into the lines that are out, and unfortunately a lot of the lines I'm into aren't there. So you then go through like the smaller publications. So you have Comic and Cocktails, Shebang, the whole shebang, sorry, Star Action Figures, Big Bad Toy Store, Zavvi have some stuff, and you have all these little sites have all popped up and stuff like this. And those are the ones I use Comic and Cocktails as all my go-to, just because I've had such a good experience completing utterly with them that I always stay with them. Sometimes toys taking a little while longer than expected, but I kind of have the loyalty to them. It's not to say I won't use other sites for something, but that is kind of where my mindset is at this time. And obviously this is where it is, and it's not just said like everything I've said, and obviously it's just kind of, you know, you went to eBay, you have this stigmatism, you come away from eBay, then you start using Facebook and Facebook Marketplace. That comes a bit dodgy because we know there's a lot of dodgy stuff that goes on there now. So I've gone back to eBay, and I find eBay is a lot more efficient, and I use these little websites. I mean, and then you have like AliExpress and Temu and all these other ones that seem to have some stuff, and probably some of them are dodgy, some of them are not. It depends what you're after. There are a lot more knockoffs, and knockoffs that are quite good quality because they use the same molds, it's just painted a little bit different and stuff. And yeah, and it's very interesting of how kind of, you know, there was, as I've grown up and as I've gone through collecting, the avenues that you've had have got a lot bigger, but then they've changed, and you've kind of had this avenue, and then this avenue is not that good, and you've got, you know, say like eBay's really good, and all that's a bit dodgy for Facebook. And then, you know, even I've got to the point of, as you've got more into these groups and stuff, and then obviously toy fairs, I never even knew there was toy fairs or such things. And, you know, I've been to the probably last like 3 or 4 at the NEC, and hopefully, you know, I went once this year and I'm hoping to go in September. I mean, it's just absolutely a joy and fun experience to go to Lowe's and see people and get bargains. But obviously this also creates kind of a customized search engine within yourself, and people who know it, obviously when you specifically look for something, you kind of gauge, or especially early collecting, you know, you see that, oh yeah, that seems like a good price. When you get to kind of my point where I've been collecting, you know, the best part of 10 years and this sort of stuff, you look around, you know what prices are. When there is a lot of stuff you have, you then start searching, and you start getting like, oh well, this place did this for like 25 quid and this place is doing this for like £12. I know the £12 a bargain, you know, I know it's a bit of an exaggeration, maybe like £15 plus £8 £3 postage or packaging, so it's £80. Yeah, it's definitely better than 25. And you shop around even when you go in store, and it's nice to have the hunt, and that's why I'm trying to get more into car booting and stuff, because it's always, I enjoy and hunt and really random stuff you come across, and it's really nice to add these, you know, and even maybe gets you into something because you find something and oh my god, you know, it's quite hard to find, it's quite expensive, but I got it really cheap, and that's the hardest one to find, this set, or you know, and I can get some other ones cheap and build up on this, and it's a great that everything expands, like the stuff you have at hand to look into stuff has blown up completely with the internet, especially of the last, I would probably say 3-4 years, especially, and also like manufacturers and second-hand manufacturers and like Random Toys and all this stuff are all producing their own stuff, and it's great, and you have Kickstarters and stuff to back these new items, and as you're going through and learning all this stuff, it kind of you build up this encyclopedia knowledge, and then when you get to a point and you want specific stuff, or you just are limited to a budget, and I haven't got an inexhaustible amount of money, so yeah, I have to be very selective, and that's kind of where I have been. Now I'm sure a lot of collectors watching this will be where I am, and a lot of them will probably be quite new and not really know too much, or maybe too young to know, like Toys R Us and Woolworths and stuff like this from the past, where he had it. I know Toys R Us is coming back, but it's not quite exactly what Toys R Us used to be. But yeah, it's the whole, it's funny how everything has evolved and evolves, that it's kind of like it was a niche thing, and now toys is, you know, 1 in 4 collectors, they say, or 1 in 4 toys sold is for an adult collector. So there's so much more for the adult side, and then obviously third parties, expensive stuff, and you know, adult collectors have loads of hundreds of pounds. So rather than make this £20 figure, we'll make it £120 figure and make it amazing, so they can collect it, and it's almost non-stop. It is a great time to be a collector, but on the reverse side of things, there is so many people out there collecting, and I think even with the whole COVID thing, and obviously everybody stuck at home but buying stuff, that, you know, my collection did sprout up a lot through that time, but I feel like there's so many a limited amount of toys out there, and now more people are looking at them, they're going to become sparse, and all these toy shops, they get them in, and people do sell their collections up and do get fed of them, but they're fed up, but there's only so long where certain collections and toys, people will hoard certain stuff, and it will become very harder to get even lines that were common. But anyway, that has been my kind of ranty video, but I hope you enjoyed. So this is like on how I collect. Obviously very much changed from when I was a child. Still do get toys and presents now, so I do have that fun to look forward to. But I've been Cypher Sigma Toys. How do you collect toys? Is there anywhere you specifically go to? Is it a local store to you? I don't have a local toy store to me. I have a comic book store, but it doesn't really have toys. Leicester Vintage is the closest one, but it's still an hour drive, and all the other stuff in it. It's just a bit too much for me when I could go to Birmingham for the same kind of time and money. But please do let me know in the comments down below how you collect or what you'll go to. I've been Cypher Sigma Toys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one.